G'day guys, MFWest here, and today we have a massive update from Blizzard. More importantly on Unholy Death Knight, but a lot of classes that are extremely strong at the moment. But the video will primarily be focusing on what has happened to Unholy Death Knight. So let's just get straight into it, guys. Let's get straight into it. So there's been so many mini PvP patch notes since the release of the expansion, and none of them, not one single one of them, have covered Unholy. Now I'm going to give you guys a quick 2 minute kind of rant on what I think of just like what I think of Unholy so far. So far, Unholy DK is by far one of the worst melee in Shadowlands for PvP. Okay, now why is that? Why is Unholy so bad? It just doesn't fit the meta. So the current meta is burst, high amounts of damage in a short space of time, lots of damage, and Unholy is not like that. As we saw at the end of BFA, really thriving in that kind of damp, long, prolonged game where you can really take advantage of high health pools and Necrotic Strike. Alright? Now, Necrotic Strike was so bad that no one was even taking it in Arena. Not to mention if you would even come across an Unholy DK, one of the most rare melee classes in the game next to Survival Hunter. And the reason why you weren't taking Necrotic Strike is because that percent of health was like 4% of someone's health was actually negligible when a holy paladin can literally holy shock themselves for almost half their healing and just burst heal their full HP in a matter of literally 2-3 globals with the Kyrian Covenant ability. Like, it's just that style of Unholy's style of play did not fit the meta. It was everything was pointing towards Frost, and me personally, I just don't enjoy the Frost playstyle. I've always played Unholy since the dawn of time, since I started playing this game, so it was really gutting to see how bad Unholy was performing. Like, actually not playable. Not playable at all. And there's been adjustments to some of the more OP classes, but what they've done here today is not going to fix Unholy. That's the bad news, okay? Unholy, it again doesn't fit the current meta. In season 1 of Shadowlands, it will not be relevant. I do not think Unholy DK season 1, like this season, is going to be not even like a B tier DPS spec, because of how long it takes us to set up. Like, we literally have to go through 7 to 8 globals to get our burst cooldowns out. And like I said, the meta currently in season 1 is damage in a short space of time. There are classes like Paladins and Warriors have better defensives than us. Rep Paladin Sack has been a game changer for them, and I'm not even going to discuss what Warriors have because they are just on another level of defensive toolkit. So our defensives don't allow us to actually compete with those S tier melee classes. That's just the fact of it. But that was my little 2 minute rant. Thank you for listening about that. Let's get straight into what's actually happened here. So, of course, top of the list because D for Death Knight. Necrotic Strike now absorbs 6% of the target's health, was 4%. Now, let me just put this into perspective for you. So 6% of someone that has 40k HP is around 2.4k. So a 2.4k absorb for every Necrotic Strike. Now, this is the first season, so we're going to have pretty low levels of haste. Now, this is important. Previously, before Necrotic Strike was not even worth taking, Verse and Mastery, or Mastery, yeah. Verse Mastery were our best stats because Mastery increased the damage of our pets, and Unholy has become a pet class, so most of our damage comes from our pets and not the actual Death Knight itself. With Necrotic Strike potentially making a comeback, when I say potentially, I'll explain why. It's just, I don't think 6% is enough. A 2.4k absorb, they are nerfing like Holy Paladins, which are the main issue with how fast they can heal. I think it might make us more relevant with 6% HP. There are talks, but I can't confirm that Bursting Swords still affects Necrotic Strike, and there are mentions that it could be a 7.5% absorb instead of a 6% because of how Bursting Swords works with Necrotic Strike. If it's a 7.5% health absorb, that might be potentially enough. But let's just think about this in the grand scheme of things. Not everything is about Season 1 of Shadowlands. As health pools increase, and we get more traits and become tankier, Unholy becomes more relevant. Us starting in dampening as well in twos, that makes Unholy more relevant. As the expansion goes along and each season comes out, Unholy will become a lot stronger, I believe. Season 1 is not our time. This will not make us an S tier melee, unfortunately, guys, but it is better. Okay, so 6% absorb from Necrotic Strike, we'll take it. Virulent Plague and Virulent Eruption are no longer reduced by 10% when engaged in combat with enemy players. Interesting. Yeah, there actually is a conduit that increases our play damage by 30%, so potentially 40% increase of virulent play damage if you use that conduit. Is it actually worth using? Probably not, but something to keep in mind when we kind of get into that damp meta towards the end of the expansion, potentially, guys. Okay, now let's just quickly skim through the other classes, because nerfing other classes does actually help us in the end. Careful Aim now deals 35% bonus damage when engaged with enemy combat with enemy players, was 20%, yikes. Beast Giraffe's effectiveness is no longer reduced by 20% when engaged in combat with enemy players. Yeah, BM is just not seeing any, it's all MMM. MMM is just too good. Mage, this is a great one. Dampen Magic reduces magical damage over time effects by 10%, was 20%. So a little bit better for our Virulent Plague, guys. That is an overtime effect. Glacial Spike is no longer reduced by 20% when engaged in combat with enemy players. Frost. Now there are some high rated Frost mages, and they're going to be loving this. Ray of Frost is no longer reduced by 15% when engaged in combat with enemy players. Again, really looking good for Frost. Pyrokinesis reduces combustion's cooldown by 3 seconds, was 5 seconds. That is massive. So this is the thing that bloody reduces the cooldown of combustion and gives them more combustion goes. Now they're going to have to probably cast, I don't want to do the math, but they have to cast a shit ton more fireballs to get that reduced combustion. So more time for us to live, longer games, less OP fire mages. Okay. This is a joke. This is absolutely a joke. Chrysalis PvP talent reduces Life Coon's cooldown by 40 seconds, was 25 seconds. Mana regeneration increased by 20% when engaged in combat with enemy players. That is not fixing the problem with Mistweaver. I used to play with a Mistweaver, and that is just not going to fix it. But hey, I mean, they're trying. Like Unholy and Mistweaver were two of the most dead specs that were decent, really top tier specs last expansion. So, whew. Damage transferred through Ultimate Sacrifice is no longer affected by a Blessing and Sacrifice rank 2 upgrade. That's interesting. I'm not exactly sure with the what that means, but I'm guessing maybe less damage transfer. I'm not sure. I have to literally get a paladin to explain that one. I do get this one though. Mana regeneration is decreased by 30% when engaged in combat with enemy players. So all of these were a step in the right direction. It's nice to see small changes, but warriors, rets definitely need a tone down in terms of utility and damage. That is yet to come. They will remain the S tier classes for Season 1 and probably stay that way, guys. Let's be honest. So that is pretty much the overall buffs and nerfs. I will jump straight in to see just how it feels with the 6% Necrotic Strike, potentially 7.5 with Bursting Swords. So it's going to be very interesting, guys. Pop down some comments below on what you think the changes mean. I'd love to get you guys' insight into it. Have you been playing Unholy this patch? Have you found any difficulties with it? Please let me know. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter at MFWest, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Peace, have a good day, stay unholy.